Yeah. Mm-hmm. Somebody said they saw you. The person you was kissing wasn't me. And I don't mean to know the truth. Baby, keep it to yourself. I don't wanna know. If you're playing me, keep it on the low. Cause my heart can't take it anymore. Anyways, let me stop all of that. Obviously, I'd like to thank you guys for joining me in another episode here of Randy or Not, Here I Come. Obviously, this will be the last one of the series because I said, listen, let's just keep it at 6. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to reveal everything, do you know what I mean? Otherwise it just looks like man's on here to just reveal his whole life story, and I just don't want to do that. To be honest, I think there's too much of that. So, let's just leave it where it needs to be, on a level where you know enough, but you don't know everything. So, you know what I mean? And there'll be probably more to touch on when the new episodes probably will be coming out next year, hopefully at that time next year. But we will see obviously what the response is saying, and if the response is a good one, then it will come at that time next year. As I said, I have been drinking, so I've been drinking, ding, 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 don't get me upset, daddy, baby, I want one, yeah, all of that. So yeah, I've been having a bit of a drink, you know. We'll come to the usual talk of obviously what I did, you know, sing in the showers today. Can't even remember, to be honest. I think I was singing, what was it? There's a couple of them, but it doesn't come to mind, you know. I literally forget. I forget all the time. So my memory is literally a bad memory. Bad memory. But I can tell you, see, I've had some garage tunes in my head, so like, gotta get through this. Bing, I gotta get through this. Bing, bing. So obviously lockdown is over now, we all got to get through this, and we all have kind of got through this at the period of time where obviously now lockdown is over, so we have the time to enjoy ourselves and all of that crap. So as I said, excuse the noise in the background, obviously, you know, people in my hair, man has to keep doing it while I'm still in a confined space, don't have my own place and all that, so it is what it is. That did rhyme though, deep rhymes, you know. Feeling the rhymes, and Randy just gave you some deep rhymes there. But anyways, all of that, leave all of that to all of that. So let's just recap on what we've touched on previous episodes. So I've talked about Pokemon. I've talked about, yeah, mine's kind of gone blank of the Pokemon, but yeah, I know I've talked about other stuff, but Pokemon, all of that, I think it's something to do obviously with the past life, previous life. Have I talked about wrestling? No, I don't think I've talked about wrestling. So we will probably have a bit of a topic and a discussion about wrestling. But, you know, we'll obviously go back into the past and talk about Randy's way. I always keep talking about myself in the third person, so if you don't know by now, well, now you know, innit? So, team I supported. I always kind of supported Arsenal as a kid, so we'll just touch a bit on football. By the way, for some people are football heads. And I never really got into Arsenal in the first place as a kid because my dad was a Liverpool supporter. My dad supported Liverpool. So, my dad being a Liverpool supporter, immediately I gravitated towards Liverpool first. And that was obviously the ages when I was like 8, you know. And I was obviously watching and supporting Liverpool because of my dad. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for my dad, I would not be a Liverpool supporter at all. Listen, forget all that. But I didn't really have any feeling or connection to Liverpool. The reason why I watched them was solely purposely because of my dad. My dad's a huge Liverpool fan. He's, you know, a Liverpool supporter and that. So when someone at the head, like, of your household, you know, is a supporter of that team, you always gravitate towards what your family members generally support. And my dad obviously was a Liverpool fan. Other members of my family weren't Liverpool fans. You know what I mean? We had Arsenal fans mainly. Majority of my cousins supported Arsenal. So it was definitely going to happen either one way or the other that I would eventually probably support Arsenal. But it wasn't because of them. I think they had probably had some sort of words in my ear about the team I was supporting, but it was never concrete them that made me support Arsenal. It was obviously at that period of time, obviously at that period of time when I was obviously just one day watching Arsenal, and I think this was when I was like 9 or something. Like, I never really loved Liverpool. I was watching Liverpool mainly because of my dad, so I kind of gravitated towards them. But I had an admiration for them. I never was in love with them. You know, when you're in love with something, you want to be there, you want to support the team. I wasn't really wanting to support Liverpool. I just watched Liverpool mainly because of my dad. And that was the reasons why I was mainly into Liverpool at that period of time. But then when I watched Arsenal were gritty. Arsenal were a rugged, doggy team at that period of time. I think during that time they had I think it was George Graham in charge, and I think then afterwards was Bruce Rioch. But I think George Graham was in charge, and you saw some players that were so determined. Captain Tony Adams, Winterburn, all these people that were strong, you know, real doggy determination, and they were doing some things that I was like, I like this team, and I like what they're doing. I like the fact that they're so passionate about defence and everything. And for me as well, like growing up as a young man, in my head, my thoughts were, well, I'd love to play some sort of a defensive role. Like me growing up, obviously, I was shit at football. No lies to you, I was completely awful, crap, bad. You know what I mean? My footballing career started off with me being absolutely dog shit. And honestly, being completely honest with you. You know, when you usually get to those ages when parents take you for training and stuff like that. I never went to training. I never did no training as a youngster. I just watched the game and got passionate about playing. At a time as a youngster, I was having problems with people at school. Do you know what I mean? They didn't like me because man was a bit different. Man was a bit silent. I was a bit socially awkward, so I wasn't really talking a lot. I was very much in my shell. So football as a way was me to kind of let out frustrations, because obviously some people didn't like man for whatever particular reasons. They used to pick on me, they used to hit me, they used to kick me, they used to bully me. I used to get bullied by these guys. And it was not pretty, you know what I mean? Never was pretty. But I looked on that and I said, well, I ain't really going to let that affect me, do you know what I mean? Which is mad to say, because I took those things and I went, well, I need to let these frustrations out in a way that suits me. You know what I mean? That lets me put out my soul frustrations and problems out of there. And I said, well, what's the problem right now is that people just don't get who I am. People don't know Randy for who he is. You know what I mean? And they see me as more of like a guy who just likes to keep himself to himself. And that's probably where I was as a youngster, because I was never confident with people. Obviously, before that, the period of time where I was getting bullied, I was very much chasing girls around. You know what I mean? I was chasing the girls around, doing kiss chase with a lot of girls. So I was very much in my element, very much in my comfort zone. Love to put myself more out there and play games with a lot of people. I just think maybe it was just the period of time guys didn't like me. Do you know what I mean? Because maybe they just didn't like the fact that I wasn't talking to them, and I was just more hanging around with the girl them at the time. So man could have easily been a player, do you know what I mean? If those issues never came across and I wasn't socially awkward probably towards the man them. I think maybe because in my household we had a lot of girls in my household. Well, just my mum and my sister. But I felt more comfortable around them. You know what I mean? I felt the men were probably a lot more tougher. So man them, you would talk to them about more grappling things and stuff like that. But I could just never really relate to most of the man them in the school, innit? Like, I was just more the quiet guy who just, wanted just to get by. And then the girl them in those days found me a bit of cute, innit? I was a bit of a cutie, not gonna lie, tooting my own horn, but I was probably a bit of a cutie. Some of the girls, kind of was feeling, man. So, do you know what I mean? I had that in abundance in the younger days. I know some of the girls be like, nah, you weren't no cute. But girl them in the days were chasing, man. Like, if you saw younger pics of me back in the days, you probably would have fallen in love with that younger brother. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm probably tooting my own horn a little bit. But yeah, I had the looks. I had something about me. Do you know what I mean? I think the young girls probably saw that and, we're into man. So they wanted to get man to kiss chase man all the time and all that. I never really kiss chased the girl then. Let's just be honest with you. I kind of puckered a few on the cheeks. But never really went deep and started lip-syncing girls. No, never did anything like that. Do you know what I mean? So that was never something I was going to do. But the whole thing with the whole affection with football was that as well. Watching games with dad and then, but I didn't know how to play football. As I said, I was awful. So, and I thought to myself, well, I'm awful at this game. But at this point in time, I was frustrated. When you get picked on, when you're the odd one out, and every time I used to look at the ball and I was like, well, I just want to boot it in frustration. And that's just what I did. I just went there one day and booted the ball in frustration. And I thought, this feels so good. Do you know what I mean? It feels like a way out, a weight lifted off my shoulders. I want to do this more. Do you know what I mean? And I was completely awful at football. Every time I got the ball, I booted over the bar. And that's just me being 100% honest with you. It went over the bar. It went over the fence. Like, there was times it went even out the school. You know what I mean? That's how bad my foot was. Like, I just kicked the ball. I didn't care where I kicked it. And the people go, oh, it's him again. Oh, God, he sucks, man. So shit. And I was like, well, I don't care. Do you know what I mean? Like, at that point in time, when you're being, affected by what's going on by other people not liking you, you don't really care at that point in time what people think. And I think at that point in time, I stopped caring about them. I was more worried about, you could say, just getting my frustrations out on that ball. But not just on that ball, coming home, my sister as well, big up to my sister too, when you're coming home and you're talking to each other as well, like, obviously during my younger days, I didn't really, you could say, appreciate her as much, you know what I mean? Because, like, when I saw my sister, probably more of the times I was like, well, thank goodness for her, you know what I mean? I've got someone probably I can, like, have a sort of bond with or something, but I never really saw as like, oh, well, you know what I mean? I can have, like, deep conversations with her and stuff like that. Because she's 4 or 5 years younger than me, so 4.5, I'll just say 4.5. She's about those years younger than me, so it wasn't the case where I could talk to her about stuff about what was going on in school. So what I do obviously was create stories with her, because obviously she was younger. I was probably around the 8 to 9 period of time. Well, 8 to 9 at that time. So, when you're around those ages, you want to let out frustration. So I put it into a story. And the ways I was telling stories to her was like, I was the king of the castle and I wasn't just king, but I was making everybody else like a subject, like where we'd have probably some famous people jump in at times, or we'd have anything else, like people in school I'd probably put into this story, or people in house school. So we would kind of mix these stories around, which were just weird, but at that time it was what I did to get myself out of that funk. Do you know what I mean? I had to get myself out of that funk of not letting this affect me in my home. Do you know what I mean? Not letting this whole thing that was going on at school affect me in home. So my thing was like, okay, well, let's just take everything from school and leave it there, and then at home completely transform it and go into my own fantasy land. And that's just what I did when I was at home. So it was a lot more easier for me being at home and doing this sort of thing and talking to her and telling her stories. So I could let out my frustrations and I can completely go into a different world when I was at home with my sister. It felt comfortable to me. It felt easy for me to go there and just talk and have a chat. But we'll stay up for hours sometimes having these stories, just making up things. And I'll be the orchestrator of making up stories and telling it how it goes and stuff like that. And that's just where it went. Do you know what I mean? It was brilliant that this whole thing came and it formed itself and it made itself to what it was. Do you know what I mean? It was literally a story we just pieced together and it was like boom, 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 boom. And then, do you know what I mean? For days we were talking about things. We were just stuff to do with just how we incorporated different stories and we were putting them all together and we were just, making it happen. But it was just mainly my brain that was just doing it. No offense to her. I mean, there was a few rare occasions which she was telling the story, and listen, it obviously wasn't on the level of mine. You know what I mean? With me, I had an imaginative mind at that time, so my brain would just completely flow out with so much nonsense. Do you know what I mean? That didn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? So, but it was what it was. It was a ways to escape at that period of time what was going on in school. You know what I mean? At school, problems was problems there, and I just didn't want to deal with them. And my ways to deal with them, because I was not vocal, I was not someone who would probably stand up for myself a lot, because I just didn't like violence. And as me being a young man, not wanting to punch or kick someone, or even fist fight, or even talk to somebody, it was very difficult. So I thought the best ways of me getting this out was by using this and taking it forward into a mode of where I completely lose myself away from that world. I put myself in another world, and that's just generally what I did. So that is what helped, but not just that, football as well. As I said, football was definitely much a lifesaver for me. So, because I do think without those things, I probably could have gone down the route that a lot of youngsters probably went down, where they got bullied and they probably just said, well, I can't deal with this, and take their life or something. So it very much was like a saver for me, like talking to my sister and having these moments with her, but not just her, and the moments as well where I would have football in my brain as well. Going to school, I was awful. We had these fucking, what was the shoes again? When you have these plimsolls sometimes, and these bad Dr. Martens shoes that will get absolutely ruined when you kick the ball. That's what I had. So those periods of times, those are what I stuck with. You know what I mean? It was mainly that for me that made it happen. So those periods of times, I look at football as the be all and end all, and that's what made me love the game even more today. I love playing football, and football for me is something that would be such a great story if I actually got into the professional game, that I could talk about and go, well, football was something that took me completely away from what was going bad in my world and made it good. Do you know what I mean? But I never went to training, and the times I did go to training and the times I went to places where football could help. I remember there was a specific day where me, my mum and my sister went to obviously go and register me to go and play football. This was obviously after school and stuff. And I remember seeing people from my school at the place. We were approaching the place very near, and I remember seeing people in my school there. And I didn't want to go in, because the first thought in my mind is like, I don't want to be somewhere where people already know who I am. But the bad thing about it is that I should have gone in there. And I regret not going in there, because I looked at the people there and I was like, no, I know these people. I know them. They go to my school. Do you know what I mean? So there's going to be more information that could be said about me. And this is secondary, by the way, secondary school. So that could have been something that spread it to them. Oh, Randy, you know what I mean? And the people would have been laughing at me more. It would have been embarrassing. Do you know what I mean? Because I was nowhere near good. Do you know what I mean? At that period of time, 13, I was not good at football. I was getting better, but I was not good. Compared to like school days, primary school, I was awful. I couldn't kick a ball to save my life. Do you know what I mean? The times you tried to kick a ball, it was not going right. So every time, I remember I managed to score one goal at the time, but it came in some freak way. I think someone fouled me, I dropped to the ground, and the person kicked the ball. It kind of came ricocheted off me and went in. That was probably the first goal I'd scored, which actually wasn't my goal. Do you know what I mean? It actually got kicked off me and it went into the back of the net. And then they jumped on me, like, oh, he scored it. I was like, but at that time I was bawling my eyes out, because I was bawling because I fell to the ground, it hurt, so I was crying my eyes out. Which is, at a young age, you do these things. Things hurt, you cry. Listen, if someone throws me over, I would cry. It's not going to happen. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't cry at all. Do you know what I mean? I've broken my arm before and I've not cried. Those stories will probably come, next year, for the next season. So, but those are the sort of things that happen, you'd be passionate about the game. And obviously as a youngster, I couldn't drop football. I couldn't drop it. It was just something within me that just said, keep persevering with this. Because even though you're shit right now, something tells me that this right here is something that could build up to be something so great, something so beautiful, something right now that lets you escape from this world where people have a problem with you. Because right now you're playing with people right now that already don't like you, you know, probably in your form years, that don't think anything of you. They see you as this outcast, this loser, whatever, do you know what I mean? But when you're playing football, it completely takes you away from that world. And I was awful. I was always picked last for the school most of the times, but I didn't care at that period of time. I just wanted to go and boot that ball. That was my frustrations let out on that football. Do you know what I mean? And it felt good. It felt good to do that. For the moments when I was playing football, my mind completely escaped from wherever it was that I was at school. Do you know what I mean? So I could go and play football, and I would always run in the pitch to go and play. I remember the time I was in detention one time, and I think they were saying, "Oh, it's 0-0. We're doing fine. Everybody's doing fine." I came on the pitch. Literally, as soon as I came on the pitch, I kicked a ball, and I put the guy through to go and score the other end. And oh my goodness. They're like, oh my goodness, this guy's so shit. But I came literally as like 10 minutes to go towards the end. It was 0-0, like, and obviously breaks are about an hour long or something like that. And I had detention for about 45 minutes. And obviously when you run now, the score's like 5 minutes left. So score obviously to the playground about 5 minutes it takes you. So I was running out. I was like, oh, I need to get 10 minutes of football. I need to, you know, because I was calculating the time. I've got 10 minutes, got to run out, got to make sure I kick that ball. I didn't even get to kick it. Miskicked it. It completely went through me. And then I put the guy through to go and score. And they're like, oh, it was 0-0 at the time. You wouldn't have done that, you pussy. Oh, you completely fucked this shit up for us. We were so in the game, you wouldn't have done that, you dickhead. And I was like, well, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Because at that period of time, I didn't care, man. I wanted to just boot the ball. But I didn't kick the ball at all. I kicked there. And that's why I kicked, you know what I mean? It was Air Andy, let's just call it that. Probably would have started a trend there, Air Andy. But instead of like a night tick, it probably just me doing like completely miskicking the ball, my legs in the air, and then me falling back or something. Do you know what I mean? Like with a back crack, not something taking it from the ridiculous label or something like that. But like you're talking about in sort of like a bed motion where you miskicked the ball, but like your legs are in the air and the one's like kind of just falling behind, while your back's in an awkward position. But then, like, you're literally about to do like a backflip or something, but you're not gonna do a backflip. You're probably gonna land on your neck or something. Or you know what I mean? Boy, but that's kind of what football was for me, man. Football was that. Coming into football in secondary, obviously I started to get better. We're still at the point where I was kicking the ball wildly. You know, like, listen, when you kick the ball, you just punt it. Like, and that's what I always do. I will toe punt the ball because I didn't know how to kick a ball properly. Until I think someone showed me, no, you use your kind of side foot, you know, and that should help. I can't remember who told me that, but they told me specific skills. And I was watching football a lot at that time. When you're younger, you don't understand the game as much. But when you get older, you start to understand techniques and everything. And I was watching football a lot more for techniques and how to learn from an ability sort of level. Because when you're seeing how people strike a ball, like Ronaldo and people like that, but back in my days, you had Henry, you had I'm trying to remember all the people that were so good, like Nedved, and people that were really good on the ball. Hullet, Guardiola. Do you know what I mean? You have people who composed on the ball, very good. You know, my first thing as a player was, for me, I knew I wasn't good striking the ball up front. I knew what I was good at was hoofing and getting rid of the ball. So I said immediately where my talents do lie, if I was going to be a semi-pro professional football, will be in defence. So I started playing in defence, and defence was where I was naturally having the ability to punt a ball clear and just it'll be all right. People wouldn't get mad at you or moan. They'd be like, oh, you got rid of the ball. Yeah, well done. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of the place that was more adopted to me to play. Do you know what I mean? Because I was shit at everything else. Shit at dribbling the ball. Shit at controlling the ball. shit at all of that. The best thing I could do at that time was punt a ball clear, and that's what I was good at. So, it beats anything. So that's kind of where I naturally gravitated towards being more of a defender. But I didn't start really playing more in the position or defence or anything. I was more of just a floater, because at those periods of time, you don't know what positions is where. And in school, as a kid, everybody ran up front. And this is how it was. No one really wanted to stick in defence. I think I was doing that most of the time. So that was generally the position that I felt that I was a lot more comfortable in. Because I didn't want to go up front and miss chances and people will be pointing the fingers again. Because when I was a youngster, that's what I was doing. I was running up front and I always missed the ball and I always kicked it over. Do you know what I mean? So I said, listen, defence is probably the best position for me because I think, and I started watching a lot of more defenders and I said, well, all they do is punt the ball clear. In my mind, back in my younger days, that's what I saw. So that's immediately what I felt was probably more where I was good at. So, but my positions changed over the years and growing up and getting better at football, going into school, secondary, I remember surprising people one day when I scored like a hat trick and stuff like that. I really surprised them because I wasn't playing up front and they said to me, go up front. And I was like, no, because I was getting bigger in those days. I was getting bigger, more henchard. In my younger days, I was a skinny piece of crap. I was skinny, I was very scrawny, but going to secondary, I was getting bigger, especially year 8s, year 9s, I was getting a lot bigger, I was getting more heftier, because I didn't want to be bullied anymore. I wanted to be able to punch people up and threaten people if people came towards me, and that's what was happening. They saw me as more threatening, and when I was getting bigger, they was like, okay, well, he's bigger, so pull him up front. I was the Lukaku before Lukaku was Lukaku. So let's just put it as that. Heskey. People used to call me like Heskey and stuff like that, but it was what it was. I just said, well, it is what it is. Heskey's a big man. He holds the ball up well. That's what I'm doing. So my job basically as that evolved over time. And I surprised people one day in secondary. It was a Joga Bonita competition and I was with a 4 or 5-a-side team and I remember banging in goals. I banged 3 in, kind of from halfway point. As soon as I got the ball, bang, I just smacked it as hard as I could and 3 of them flew in and everybody looked in amazement do you know what I mean? Because they didn't see that coming. The times I was over the periods of times during my younger days, I was perfecting my shots. So I was literally at that period of time because I had a club that I was going outside and playing football. So it would just be me sometimes and I would just be power banging. And that's how I learned to eventually shoot my shots and get better at power shots because I'll put my foot right through the ball. I can't really do it much nowadays because if I do, I'd probably, destroy my foot. My foot's not the same as it was as a kid. In days as a kid, I used to put my foot through anything and it used to just fly in, you know what I mean? And that's kind of how it was. But that's when I got to secondary. I realised I had that natural ability and that natural power to just really put my foot through it and it flew in. And obviously it happened more during college days that I still kept using that technique, which has left me with my foot now probably not as good as it should be now. That's why I can't really power bang things as much as I used to be able to power bang things back in the days. But now I can place things a lot. I'm a lot more controlled with the ball than I used to be. You know what I mean? If you compare me to now, I'm a much better player than I was in my school days. So, you know what I mean? And I used to play in defence, but now I play as a striker. Do you know what I mean? From that day, from that Joga Bonita competition, where I scored 3 goals, I kind of said to myself, well, I've got this act for playing up front. Let me do it. Let me go up front and play up front. And that's kind of what happened. So, yeah. That's kind of my football story in a nutshell. I mean, probably there's a lot more to talk about football, but I don't want to keep going on the ball, people. And obviously, we're kind of getting to the end of the time of this episode of Randy or Not Here I Come. So, that's all I've really got to touch on much. So, yeah, man. Football was kind of a lifesaver for me, you know what I mean? But it wasn't just that, it was stories with the sister and all that during my younger days. So those are the things that kind of moulded Randy, me. You know, I always talk about myself the third person, don't know why I do it. But it helped me be the person I kind of am today. Do you know what I mean? It helped me be a better player. If I'd given up on football, could you imagine? Do you know what I mean? I would have been somewhere probably just being a serial gamer, because I love playing games, but football, if you're talking about football and games, football trumps games all day of the week for me. And that's all I got to say on that. But anyways, yeah, I'm going over the mark. Let's just end this episode. So this is obviously the final episode of the season. Obviously, the new season, we'll see if I can get a new season up, and hopefully that will come to you guys next year. I don't know when. So just, as I said, Randy or Not, here it comes. So just expect it when it comes. But, you know, I've got a lot of things on my plate, so I thought, listen, this has got to end in 6 episodes. Probably next season it might extend to a lot more. But I'd like to thank you all, obviously, for tuning in to this episode. These episodes of Randy or Not, here I come. And hopefully I can give you a lot more in the new year. If I can't, then it is what it is. You know, the podcast is available. A lot more things will be on the YouTube channel, so do check them out. But anyways, yeah, let me stop waffling on. Thank you guys again for checking this out. And, you know, Randy or Not, here I come. So, yeah, till next season, guys. I'm out.